Welcome everyone to the week one go-to session. So this is the first of 4 sessions we're going to hold this month. Let me quickly just make an announcement. I'll also make a textual announcement on the FSL platform, which you can see here. I go on vacation starting Thursday. I'll be out of town for a week, meaning outside Orlando. This won't impact us too much because I'm going to stay on top of my classes. It probably does mean that I might just check for messages once a day. Okay. I'm going to visit my kids. So when they're in bed late at night, I might be able to check messages and get in contact with people, but I will be in communication. But for a week or so, it's going to be a little bit, um, I don't know. It's not that I'm going to be incommunicado, but I will be checking less often. But I will be staying on top of things, okay? That means grading, reaching out, answering questions. It also means that I'm not sure what to do about next Tuesday's go-to session. What is most likely going to happen is I'm going to upload the video from last month because I cover the same material. Um, I prefer to hold the sessions live, though, because every set of students is unique. So the questions that they might have might differ. But yeah, I just can't promise. It's going to be highly unlikely that I'll be free next Tuesday at 8 p.m. to deliver a live lecture. But again, there's no reason to panic, okay? Because the lecture video really it will cover the exact same material, and then we'll get on board for the final 2 weeks. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right, Felix. I'll essentially send out the link as an announcement. I'll probably even do so earlier since I don't have to wait until Tuesday at 7 p.m. So, yeah, hopefully Monday or Tuesday of next week, I'll just send out the link and you can start watching it when you're ready. And then we'll get back on track with live sessions. So, as I indicated, every session is recorded. So, people are watching this after the fact. Those who cannot attend live, yeah, they're not out of luck because we do cover important information in these lectures. For instance, this week I'll be explaining the 2 graded assignments, including the big guy here, professional presentation analysis, which requires you to look at 3 separate TED Talks and analyze them. I'm going to cover that toward the end of the session. Okay. Um, let's see. Yeah, so the lectures are important because I go into explanation in detail about the assignments. This week's stuff isn't terribly confusing, but when we get into next week, for example, you'll start actually planning your presentation, and this requires a bit more explanation. So you're always getting crucial information in the sessions about the assignments, and I sort of hit on the key points from the readings. You have 2 textbooks, Slideology and Resonate. They're both written by the same author. Make sure that you're keeping up those readings. I do highlight key information from those textbook readings, but it certainly helps if you're keeping up with it as well. Okay, let me get back to my actual presentation. Oh, let me mention one other quick thing real fast. I mean, the easiest way to get in touch with me with a question is to use your little message icon up here. So Jessica had a question, but I'm going to answer it during this session. So I'm just going to clear that. You'll notice that you always have the ability to leave comments underneath activities, and that's fine. The only problem, though, is whenever you leave a comment, like let's say you were reading through, I don't know, the go-to training sessions, right? And you had a question, so you decided to leave a comment for me right then and there. It doesn't go to my message area. So when you send me a direct message, this guy lights up. Okay, let me make that a little bit bigger. This little bell here is my notification section, and I literally get a notification for anything you do. So if you read through one of the basic ungraded activities, it's just giving you information, I get a notification. You clear your throat, I get a notification. So look, Jade Martin submitted something. Whenever you make a comment to the discussion area, I get a notification. So what I'm saying is that the comments tend to get buried. I mean, I look for them, and I'm pretty good at finding them and responding. But the quickest way to get a direct response from me is to use the actual message icon, okay? Because every so often, it's not very often, but yeah, I can miss something here, okay? And it doesn't mean that I'm ignoring you. It just means that maybe I missed that comment that was left for me underneath some random activity, okay? And I understand it's confusing because from your viewpoint, you see the comments and you think, oh, great, I'll leave a comment. And that's what it's designed for. But yeah, if there's anything crucial to ask, use the message icon, okay? That alerts me that there's a message waiting for me that I absolutely have to respond to. Okay, welcome to Creative Presentation. This should be a first month course for just about all of you. Occasionally we have somebody who's taking it again because it didn't stick the first time or because there were personal issues or other serious matters that prohibited them from completing the course, but most of you should be brand spanking new, right? So, first of all, welcome to Full Sail. You all picked this school because it's different than other schools, right? There's some traditional classes you have to take, like there's an English course. By the way, I'm an English teacher. I'm a member of the English department, but I also teach creative presentation about 4 months out of the year. So you might see me again next month if you're a campus student, in month 4 if you're an online student, because I also teach English. So yeah, there's some traditional classes here, but mostly it's a very different kind of university. Probably what stood out to you is that, yeah, we're more hands-on. We're more interested in helping students learn specific skills, specific trade skills, excuse me, that are relevant usually to the entertainment industry. So music production, digital cinematography, recording arts, but also technical fields. So web design, graphic design. Actually, if people don't mind, why don't you go ahead and mention in the chat? Some people started to earlier before the session started, sharing what you're here to study. That'll be interesting for me and for everybody else. Music production, game design, computer animation, game art. Okay, yeah, terrific. So yeah, you probably chose this because you heard that Full Sail is pretty good in these areas, and we do have an excellent record at placing people. Um, those students who make it through the 2-year program and do so with effort and energy typically have zero problems getting their foot in the door or getting an internship or getting a job. I've been here for nearly 4 years, so I've heard lots of success stories. Even here in Orlando, I've met people, for example, who are working graphic designers and got their education here. Uh, Actually, graphic design is one of, I mean, all our programs are great, but graphic design is one that actually gets put up there on different lists from the Princeton Review, other publications, organizations about top programs in the United States. So it's nice to see that. So yeah, you chose this place because it's right for you, and we definitely want to feed on that energy. Okay, so there's me. There's it looks more like a mugshot than an actual photo. I have 15 years teaching experience. So before Full Sail, it was mostly in traditional colleges and universities, everything from major universities to community colleges. My interests actually they coincide with lots of students' backgrounds. So I've taught introduction to film previously. Yeah, I'm not really an experienced music person, but I do play piano. My real background is in English, specifically creative writing, fiction. Um, so yeah, my interests typically coincide with students. I like to play video games. I have a PS3, a 3DS. I'll get the PS4 eventually. I just don't have the cash for it yet. But yeah, this isn't surprising. By the way, most of your instructors here are going to have pretty broad backgrounds because Full Sail particularly hires people who have these sorts of backgrounds. So we're not your typical sort of stodgy, older, although I'm getting there, instructor who only has one area of interest and nothing else. Okay, so you'll see that with a lot of your instructors. So you'll have a creative presentation instructor who has a lot of various interests. Same thing for your psychology teacher, your English teacher. Okay. And yeah, that's really useful because it means that your instructors typically are going to be aware of whatever you choose to write about or choose to explore. Anyway, there's a little bit of info about me. Okay, so now what do we expect from students? I've already gotten into some of that. First of all, be sure to channel your energy, use that excitement. You know you're in the right place. You're excited to be here. You're excited to begin. So first of all, yeah, use that energy. Okay. This is a sort of nice introduction to the university. I think a lot of you took some sort of orientation course, right? It was kind of like a breeze type class. It sort of is just an introduction to the university. This is a good taste of what you're going to expect because I can say that I don't think this class is terribly difficult, but it becomes difficult if you don't keep up with activities or you don't keep up with the textbook readings or you don't either attend or view the lectures. I can make a promise that students who complete all activities and do so with decent effort typically pass, and not just pass, but pass with pretty good grades. I have pretty basic goals for this class, which is to break the habits of bad presentation making and introduce a different system. Okay. And starting in this class session, I'll start talking about some of those concepts and I'll reinforce them week to week. But yeah, this will give you a good taste for the university, how quickly it moves. Okay, we have 4 weeks. The good news is it's over in a flash. Before it seems like it starts, you're done. Uh, the challenge, of course, is the same thing. It moves so fast that it sometimes feels like you have a lot on your plate. But yeah, if you stay on top of things, I don't think it's that difficult of a class. Okay. And yeah, it's going to give you a good taste of what you're going to experience in other courses that function much the same way. Let's see what you can expect from us. We aim for a 24-hour turnaround on comments or questions, messages. Okay, I'm pretty good at that. I'm probably the fastest responder in the West, largely because I have no life. So if you're ever wondering why you get a response from me at 3 in the morning, it's probably because I'm still awake and I'm just answering questions. But don't assume. Don't don't get carried away with that. Don't think, oh wow, why is he taking so long? It's been 2 hours. I mean, sometimes, hey, I check out. It's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and I'm done for the night. And I may not check again until noon the next day. Okay, so we aim for a 24-hour turnaround time on questions. For assignments, we aim for a 72-hour turnaround time. That's 3 days. That's not including weekends, although all your activities are always going to have a final due date of Sunday, so that shouldn't be an issue. Okay. And I guess the other advice I'd give is make sure to ask questions. Ask them here in these sessions. Ask them via the platform. You can send me an email, although the FSO system itself is probably the fastest way to reach me. Okay. If anytime you're confused, if anytime you need further clarification, that's what I'm here for. Okay. I don't want this to turn into an isolating experience because sometimes students they're a little bit nervous about completely online classes. And I think they both have positives and negatives. I love online classes because in some ways I feel like I have more connection to students. When you teach in the physical classroom, let's say it's a class that meets 3 days a week for 50 minutes. Okay, but you don't typically see that student or hear from them again until you meet in the physical classroom. Whereas here it's 24/7. So yeah, you actually have more access to the instructor if you take advantage of it. And I'll encourage you to do so because what I don't want to happen is people feeling like they're not part of an environment. This class is great because usually students help each other out. They communicate, they participate, they engage, and that's terrific. So I don't want to see anyone feeling like they're alone and adrift, which can sometimes happen if you're only checking in once every few days or if you start falling behind. Okay. This is supposed to recreate the experience of a traditional classroom. So we're having a classroom session right now. Let's see, I'm trying to catch up on the chat. Daniel says he said some problems with the isolation issue. Yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge to overcome. And you're right. The biggest way to kind of solve that is to communicate with people. And yeah, I mean, you'll always be able to find, I think, a few classmates that you connect with. I see students come English time who say hello to one another again because they went through creative presentation together. And here they are taking another class. Actually, you might see each other again because for the first 4 months, you're all going to be taking pretty much the same classes. Let's see, Adrian says, feels like I've been doing my assignments, readings, and whatnot all day, every day of this week. Okay, good. That means you're definitely staying on top of things. And you'll see, after the first week or so, it'll feel like old hat. You'll sort of get used to the rhythm. You'll get used to the expectations. So hang in there. Okay, where are we going next? I'm going to come back to this. Full Sail takes copyright very seriously. I can't spruce up my presentations, for example, with Disney images. Disney's here in Orlando, by the way. I can't take anything copywritten. I can't have, I don't know, Rihanna playing in the background. Okay. And you can't either. This will become important for all your classes here, but we're going to learn about this right from the get-go because you are going to be working toward an actual presentation. And yeah, whatever is included in that presentation has to be copyright allowable. And that will start with this first major assignment where you'll watch 3 TED Talks and analyze them. I'm going to get to the assignment sheet toward the end of the session, and I'll explain where you can already start looking for visuals to enhance your documents. Okay. Someone's making a comment in the Maxwell says so royalty-free stuff only. Yeah, pretty much. Again, I'll show some examples where you can go to for safe materials. And this is important to keep in mind because come presentation time, yeah, I'll need to know where every image comes from, every sound file. Because think of it, you're all in industries, every single one of you, where you can't just take things and use them when you feel like it. If you're a music person, you probably know that pretty well. But any of you, graphic design, computer animation, yeah, you can't just grab stuff. So we're trying to teach this lesson early because it's one you're going to hear again and again throughout your time of study. But I'm going to come back to that, okay? Okay, just a quick comment about writing standards. At this level, I'm not grading too harshly on issues of like grammar, punctuation. I just expect that basic standards are met. So we're not using text speak. For example, here in the chat, it's fine. So Jessica just typed I'm like this. That's perfectly okay in this setting. But in any work that you submit, whether it's a discussion board post or a message to me or any activity you turn in, you should be avoiding any of that. Right. LOL speak, as Daniel says, also means, typing I. Let me see if I can type that instead of I. Right. So yeah, I want basic standards being met. You're writing incomplete sentences. You're using basic punctuation. You're proofreading. You're spelling things correctly. Okay. If you do that, I'm not going to nitpick about is the comma in the right space. That comes later. That comes in month 4 in English class. Okay. Enough about that. Some quick comments about your textbooks. Again, you have 2 of them, Resonate and Slideology. Actually, I thought I had everything set up. Let me real quickly bring up one of the textbooks because one of them is just freely available online. What did I just open up? Right. You would think I had this bookmarked because I use it so often, but no. And I hope it doesn't make me fill out the form again. No. Okay, so here's one of our textbooks, right? And as you'll see, let me get to chapter 1. The chapters aren't terribly long, so please make your way through it. There are lots of images. I mean, I'm even fine for skimming in terms of trying to get the gist, although it's so short that I think you can read it through pretty completely anyway. But yeah, at least reading at the level of gist, right? We understand what gist means. So we understand the big picture ideas that are being presented. And again, in these lectures I give every week, I'm going to highlight the important stuff. I'm just trying to find my favorite image because I might have to return to it in another week. This guy here, I love that photo. We'll return to him, by the way, in another lecture. Yeah, he's not a hero. I'll talk about this when you actually. Let me give you a sneak peek of what we're working toward. I'm gonna repeat it every week, so if I sound like a broken record, I apologize. But we're working toward a 3 to 4 minute presentation. Okay, and in this presentation, it's aimed at potential employers, and you get to imagine yourself 2 years in the future. So you're going to be a recent Full Sail graduate. Why do you get to imagine yourself in the future? Because this way you can pull from the sorts of details that you'll need, because essentially you're kind of pitching yourself to potential employers. You're delivering a 3 to 4 minute presentation, professional presentation on you. In some ways, I compare it to a resume cover letter, but that's not exact. And then in fact, that can be a little bit confusing because it's similar in some ways, but different in others. But in general, imagine that, I don't know, some HR person has to go through dozens, maybe hundreds of 3 to 4 minute presentations to seriously consider candidates for a position or an intern. I'm even flexible enough where maybe if you don't see yourself getting hired by a traditional employer, someone who wants to use your skills and services and talents. Okay, so it's pretty flexible in that sense. But yeah, you have 3 to 4 minutes to essentially present who you are. So in some ways, you'll cover some basic material that would appear in a resume and cover letter, like your skills, your education, your experience. But in order to provide those sorts of specific details, yeah, you have to imagine yourself already a Full Sail graduate. Because without that, we have some students who have terrific experience already, but a lot of people don't. So you're going to have to draw upon those details, and it might require a little bit of research, both into what you'll do during the next 2 years, maybe a little bit of research into your industry, so you can pull from those details and speak about them accurately as if you already have them. So if you're in computer animation, for instance, You'll be able to mention a specific piece of software that you know, or you'll be able to mention specific skills like 3D modeling or something. Okay. We'll get more into those details in coming weeks because I don't want you overthinking about the presentation yet. For now, you just have to understand it's a 3 to 4 minute presentation aimed at potential employers or something like that. Okay, where you'll essentially get to talk about you. And in the coming weeks, we're going to fill in the details about what you need to cover, um, how to put it together, right? A presentation, etc. Okay, so I'm just giving a little taste here. I mentioned this on the discussion boards for this week so far, but yeah, it's going to combine both images. So you can think of slides, okay, even if you don't use a traditional presentation software tool like PowerPoint, still some sort of visual component, and then a professionally scripted and recorded voiceover. Okay, so those are kind of the two major pieces that are going to be included. Let's see, did I miss anything in the chat? I don't think so. Okay, and if you do have questions, feel free to interrupt. I'm going to have a Q&A time period near the end in case you need to ask things. Adrian says PowerPoint and verbal recording. Essentially, yes. You don't have to use PowerPoint. In the coming weeks, I'm going to talk about all the different options you can use. For example, there's a way to use video editing software and use it just like a presentation tool. For example, I use iMovie a lot. That's specific to Mac. And I know that lots of you don't have your MacBooks yet. But yeah, like I'll use that, even though it's not technically presentation software, but I can use it just like presentation software and do some really nifty things with it. But yes, Adrian, essentially, a presentation tool of your choice with a verbal recording. And this should help with the people who have been talking about anxiety on the discussion board. Because think about it, you're not going to do any live public speaking in this class. Okay, there's no moment where, I don't know, the spotlight is on you and go deliver your presentation. No, you get to do everything on your own time. This is perfect because you can script what you're going to say. You can record it so it's perfect. You'll be setting up all these touches on your own. Okay, that should take away some of the anxiety, I think, because yeah, it's not occurring in a live environment. As Daniel says, stand on that podium and deliver. No, you won't have to do that. But yeah, that also means standards are going to be fairly high, meaning you're not going to wing it. You're not just going to make it up on the spot. Okay, you're going to script things. You're going to prepare things and professionally put something together. But again, people do terrific work in this class. So one of the thrills for me is seeing the huge turnaround in terms of presentation making, because I used to be a terrible presentation maker. That's why I'm terrific for this class, because I used to be awful. And actually, it was Full Sail that turned me around, and not specifically this class. I just arrived here and noticed that my colleagues were making presentations that were much more interesting, much more engaging than what I was doing. So what was I doing? I was just opening up PowerPoint and slapping words on slides, slapping bullet points on slides. And no, we're going to try to break those bad habits, okay? And I'm going to speak about some of that stuff in this very presentation. So let me catch up a little bit. There's our author, Kay Nancy Duarte, CEO, public speaking expert. She knows what she's talking about. She's the author of both of our textbooks. And one of those books is called Resonate. And if you've started the reading already, you probably already know where that title comes from. It comes from a really cool anecdote. At least I think it's cool. Where she's explaining, I think, one of her son's science experiments, right? Resonate is simply a fancy term for finding the exact frequency at which something operates. So think about that. That's what we're trying to do with presentations. Actually, that's what we're trying to do with any type of communication. We're trying to reach people and move them. Okay, we're trying to make them resonate. She gives the example of her son doing an experiment with table salt, right? Finding the exact frequency where the salt would vibrate, move, and actually make certain patterns. Okay, so we're trying to do the same thing. Okay, we're trying to reach out to an audience, because if we can kind of reach them, make them resonate, make them vibrate, although that sounds a bit odd, yeah, that can lead to change, big picture change. So if you think about someone who puts together a public service announcement that gets a lot of attention, or we have two political candidates, I'm not going to get political, but we have two presidential candidates definitely trying to resonate with the American public. And for this class, it's much more modest. Okay, you're going to reach out to an employer and try to convince them that you're a thoughtful, experienced, professional individual who's knowledgeable about their specific industry. Okay, so you're trying to do the same thing. Yeah, presentations. Why don't we talk for a moment about those? Who can think about boring presentations that they've seen? And what specifically makes them uninteresting? Can anybody type in the chat? If you're feeling brave, you can also raise your hand and speak out loud. Someone suggests the facts were presented, no pizzazz. Something about a selfish speech, I'm not sure. Info dumps, Adrian says. Okay, that's good. I use that term a lot, data dump, right? Daniel mentioned something that's kind of connected to voiceover, a monotone voice, right? So the speaker doesn't make you feel engaged. Okay, good stuff. Uh, Non-related material, someone says. Only facts and reading everything on the screen. Okay, that's good, Jade, because yeah, we're going to break that bad habit. I love this course because you'll get to experience the epiphany that I did. Because I used to be that presenter. I would just open up PowerPoint. Actually, let me see if I can imitate it real quickly. Where's PowerPoint on my machine? Give me a second. PowerPoint. Right? And by the way, PowerPoint kind of encourages these bad habits because what is look, I open it up and it says choose a template. So you choose a template, right? So boom. And then what is the first thing it does? It asks you to start. Okay. Welcome to creative presentation. Right? And then you add a slide. Where's the add a slide? New slide. Right? And look what it does. It says add more information. So title goes here. And then it says click to add text. So what do you start doing? You start adding text, like point number 1, point number 2. And that just isn't very interesting because one thing that I want to, here's how I'd really capture a big part of this class. I'm going to try to break the bad habit of putting lots of your text actually on the slides and switch instead to a visually first strategy. Okay, we're going to use successful visuals to sort of communicate your message. So, and by the way, I try to practice these same principles in my own presentations every week. It's not that text is always bad, uh, but if you're just slapping the actual content of what you're saying onto slides, then why do you need a presentation at all? Because that's a handout. Or if you're just using bullet points and they're just functioning as cue cards for you, okay, that helps you, but that's not terribly engaging for your audience. So yeah, if you can think about that, we're trying to break the bad habit of just creating textually driven presentations and instead switching to a more dynamic, visually driven strategy. That will help you tremendously this month. Because actually, I think a lot of what I teach is incredibly simple. As a matter of fact, people often say at the end of the month, wow, I learned so much. And yet what I learned was so simple. But it requires a paradigm shift. And by paradigm shift, I mean you have to flip that switch inside your head, which says, I'm going to stop doing things one way and switch to a different way entirely. Okay? And that's a big part of what this class is about. And let's take a look at that in actual practice, okay? So consider, let's say we want to use a quote, okay? A quotation can be nifty. I think it's important to choose the right quote because if you're just quoting Shakespeare and you've never read a Shakespeare play and you don't care about Shakespeare, your audience probably won't care either. But sometimes, yeah, finding the right quotation could be a powerful way to deliver a message or to connect it to something bigger that you're saying. Okay, so consider this. Here we have a quote just on a slide, right? Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Yeah, Luis, I like this quote too, right? Because education is more than just cramming your head with information. Um, it's really about finding that spark, okay? Because the spark is what you'll typically remember. I used to cram for quizzes and tests all the time in high school, and I do great on the quizzes and tests, but can I remember any of that information now? Nope. But yeah, the people who have sparked an interest, that I can remember. But look what happens if we pair it with the right image. Okay, so this is kind of what we're pushing for, right? Here, there's text on the screen, but my cursor has disappeared. You probably see it moving around, but I don't. So give me a second to bring this down and bring it back up again. Yeah, okay, now it's back. Okay, now we've paired this text with an image. The quotation is the same, but meaning has kind of been altered, or at least it's been influenced or affected, right? Here we get to see what this quotation means for real, right? Education really is the kindling of a flame, and that kindling can occur anywhere, including this environment. I'm not sure where this takes place. It could be in another country, it could be in this country, right? But here's a schoolroom taking place underneath an underpass. I would argue it changes the feel of the quote, which before was just on a blank page, like this. Pair it with the right image, though, and it looks impressive. So this is what we're kind of aiming for, okay? And you all have this basic ability to find the right image. It's not that visuals are decoration. No, not at all. Your visuals have to do work. They have to connect to what you're saying. Um, but yeah, the visuals are sort of like the anchor, if you will. They're there to sort of, yeah, to do work to help your audience. But it's your voiceover, that's going to accompany this. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm reading a, a private message that came my way. But we compare it with other images. Anybody know this pop culture reference? I might have to update my cultural references, but usually some students know this. Bill and Ted. Good. Okay. Yeah, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Lots of people know it. For people who don't, it's a movie from the late 80s. There's a sequel in the early 90s. Basically about two slackers who travel in time. But here, obviously, the sort of message has been changed maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm going for humor. Okay. Maybe my audience, I'm feeling that their attention might start drifting. But if I put this slide up, maybe they suddenly wake up. Maybe they chuckle. Maybe they laugh to themselves. Maybe they're my age. Okay. I'm 45 and they can remember this movie when it came out. But still, there is a connection, right? We're still talking about education, but we're doing it in a more kind of humorous way. Be careful, though. Humor is a good way to connect with people, as Daniel says. Be careful, though, because in a moment we're going to talk about how, yeah, you're going to have to find that balance, and your audience comes first. Everything you do is for your audience. In this class, audience is not theoretical; it's actual. Okay, if you're not putting yourself in the selves in the shoes of, for example, potential employers when you start creating your presentations, um, yeah, that can create problems. The good news is I don't take off a tremendous amount of points. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I mean, it's my job to give feedback. So I'll let you know, like, this information feels too personal in your presentation, or I think you're trying for something here, but it's missing. I have seen students who try the humor thing and it just doesn't quite work, or at least I don't think it works. So I'll help you with that. But yeah, the lesson we're trying to give here is take text, pair it with the right image, um, and that makes for a more effective and engaging presentation. And think about what I'm already teaching. This is pretty simple stuff, right? Find the right image that connects with what you're saying. Use limited text. Um, it's not that you can never use text. Oh gosh, let me see if I can find an example quickly. And if I can't find it quickly, I'll give up. Maybe we can take a sneak peek at what one of the classmates did this past month. Okay, the month that just ended. So you're seeing a lot of behind the scenes clicking around here. Okay, I haven't even started grading these yet, so you won't see anybody's grades. Mm, who had a good example? This is so much work for absolutely nothing. But hang in there. Uh, let's take this guy down. Let me see if I can get to this brief moment in someone's final presentation quickly. Uh, and watch, he's probably changed things around so much that it's no longer there. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, let me pause there. Okay, so here's text, right? But notice how it's been transformed visually. It's not just bullet points. It's not just stuff slapped on slides. So when text does appear, the goal is to at least make it visual in some way, because your audience is going to respond to this information presented this way with more engagement. Don't ask me why. I think people like just looking at visuals in different ways. They like charts. They like puzzles. They like, yeah. But imagine if this was just placed on flat dull sort of bullet points going up and down the page. Now, sometimes I break my own rules. So if I go back to my earlier slide, look what I did. Bullet points, no. Okay, so yeah, it's not that they're always terrible. But yeah, we're trying to avoid. I'm kind of belaboring this point. Everybody gets what I'm saying, right? We're going to avoid just slapping the content of what you have to say on the slides themselves, and we're going to try to instead use visuals to communicate as much as we can. And if you can do that, you're already half the way there. Okay? So it really is a simple class. I think the challenge comes, and you'll see this come presentation time, to actually choose your content and to shape it and to script it, and then to have it match the right visuals actually takes a bit more time than you think. But I think it's more fun. It's more creative. It's more engaging. So I think that's part of the challenge. But yeah, the basics, what I'm teaching are actually kind of simple, but they are needed. Okay. I'm going to revisit this in future weeks, but just as a story has a beginning, middle, and end, just like a film does. Just like an essay has an introduction, a body, and conclusion, your presentations will also have this shape. And in future weeks, we're going to talk about techniques, like opening moves you can make in the very beginning. Maybe you begin with a quote, right? Maybe you begin with that education quote. Or maybe you begin with a short personal anecdote. Maybe you'll share the time that you were 7 years old and you first watched the movie Toy Story, and that's what ignited your passion for computer animation. Okay, so we'll talk about techniques to make sure that you're shaping your material in a way that it engages an audience, but also has a clear sense of beginning, middle, and end. Okay, we've actually already talked about this, right? We know what makes ineffective presentations. We've already gotten into it. There's the voiceover side. Someone's monotone. Someone's not very engaging. Like I have to turn up my engagement meter even during these presentations because in real life I'm pretty quiet, kind of reserved, kind of shy. But when I step out on stage, yeah, I become a different person. Maybe not so much in these presentations, although a little bit, but like in the physical classroom, yeah, I love it. And I think I even post on the discussion board. I forget to who, because lots of people want to know, how do you solve these issues of stage fright? How do you get over fear of public speaking? And I've already said that you don't really have to worry about that in this class. But the answer is kind of frustrating because you'll just reach that moment where you're so comfortable in your own skin that you don't care. I shouldn't say you don't care because I care very much, but I don't worry about the small stuff. If I lose my place, I'll just kind of look at the audience, say, where was I? And someone will laugh, remind me where I was, and I'll say thank you and just move on. It's kind of like a figure skater who maybe doesn't nail that double axel or triple axel, right? But she or he just gets up and keeps on skating. So yeah, once you find that confidence, once you find that you're comfortable in your own skin, I think that's a big part of the solution to overcoming fear of public speaking. But sadly, yeah, that seems to come at different times for different people. I'd say also knowledge about what you're speaking about helps a lot too. When you're so comfortable about what you're speaking about, you can just go out and do it. So I've taught creative presentations so many times, I don't need to operate from a script. Plus, it would be pretty dull if I just read from a script and you all just had to listen to me. I prefer that things are more interactive so I can respond to people typing in the chat, for instance. Where were we? See? 4 types of audience. For those of you who have given presentations in speech class, maybe you've given either just a flat-out speech or maybe you had visual accompaniment, PowerPoint. How would you describe your audiences? Were they friendly? Were they apathetic, which is just a fancy word for meaning bored or indifferent? Right? I don't want to say neutral because it's worse than neutral. Were they uninformed? People are saying they've had mixed results. Jade says it depends on the event. That's absolutely true. A lot of people have, or your audience could be hostile. Lots of people's previous experiences tend to come from school, high school, and I remember speeches from high school. I also had to give one in a community college class, a speech class. And the roughest thing there is your fellow classmates aren't much of a help. They sit there like they don't want to be there. Sometimes they'll openly just put their head down on the desk and fall asleep. And that's actually one of the things that can throw you, right? Because when you look out into that crowd and see that nobody's paying attention, that sometimes is the very thing that makes you nervous. And yeah, again, when you find that confidence, when you find that comfort in your own skin, yeah, it's not that you ignore that, but you don't let it throw you. Okay. This is different. Again, you won't be delivering these presentations live. And I think at this level, your classmates will be much more engaged. So we'll have a peer review activity come week 3. Actually, it's more like week 4. And you'll find that your classmates are actually really engaged and ambitious for the most part. Um, I love teaching this class because people really do come together and help each other out and give each other constructive feedback. So you'll have, I think, a much friendlier audience in this class. So don't feel shy or embarrassed about that. Okay. About sharing your work, especially. It's a pretty painless process. Okay. Next. I lost my cursor again. Okay. Yeah, Nancy Duarte has this concept of getting to know the hero. Okay. And the hero is not you. Who wants to show off that they've been keeping up with the reading and know who the hero is? Adrian says audience. Okay, good. Lots of people said audience. Nice. Yeah, your audience is the hero. And again, this isn't a theoretical idea. This is actual. It might seem at odds because you might be thinking, wait a second, I'm delivering a 3 to 4 minute presentation about me, and you're saying that I'm not the focus, I'm not the hero. I mean, you are, but you're not, because everything you do is aimed at making a change or affecting your audience. I used to teach business writing, by the way. So I teach students memos and proposals, but we'd also teach resumes and cover letters. And yeah, the thing I would teach them the most, for example, in cover letters is tailor your letter in some way to each specific employer. Sure, 90% of it might stay the same, but do a little bit of research into that school you're applying to, or that specific job that you're hoping to get, or that specific internship. Because if you can show off in your cover letter, hey, you guys have an innovative program called X, that sounds intriguing to me, that'll make you stand out. Again, you put the audience's needs first, not your own. So yeah, it's going to seem like it's contradictory. The presentation is about you, but everything you do and say is going to be tailored so that you come across again as a knowledgeable, professional, thoughtful, industry expert. Okay. Excuse me. Felix says the audience is the one who I want to support my idea. The heroes are the ones that make that decision. Okay, good. I like that. I like the way that that's stated. Right. Your audience is the one you're trying to reach. You want them to agree with, in this case, let me get away from this for a second. I apologize because I know I bounce around a lot. But let me get off this presentation. Some of you may have noticed when you look through the assignments, you'll see like brand yourself presentation, first draft, brand yourself presentation, final. We'll talk more about branding in a future week, but it's not branding in the sense of people hear the word branding and think, oh, you mean I have to create my own company or I have to create uh, my own idea? No, the branding is much broader than that for this class. Or people think brand is just logo, like the Nike swoosh or the McDonald's golden arches. No, brand is for this class is much broader. It's that unified sense of you. Okay, everybody has a brand. Um, it's basically what people think about you when you're not in the room, what people say about you when you're not in the room. And yeah, you have a lot of control over that. And in your presentations, you'll be essentially establishing your brand. Okay. And your brand is to come across, yes, as you and specifically you. But that you should be someone who's, again, professional, thoughtful, educated, aware of your industry. Let's see, where was I? Getting to know the hero. I'm gonna. Oh gosh, I gotta breeze. I gotta get to the assignments. Okay, we talked about this. This is the part where I could improve my skills. Right, I should have time management. More stuff about the hero. Okay, so same stuff. Your audience is a hero. You're the one leading the way. Okay, you're like, yeah, you're a mentor. Okay, you're the one who's kind of leading the way. Whoever it was said it perfectly. I forget who, so I apologize. Whoever said that you're leading the audience to support what you have to say. Right. So that's very similar to the role of a mentor. Okay. Okay, let's get to the assignments. because I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think people have gotten this stuff. So we have two activities this week. One is a discussion activity worth 5% of your grade. People have already been jumping in. Let me close this. Okay. So you have instructions. You have a grading rubric. I recommend that people take a look at that stuff, okay? I'm going to always assume that people are looking through the assignment instructions. Let me go into the actual discussion real quickly. I'm happy to see that most people are doing just fine. Okay, so I have a little blurb here that essentially tells what you have to do. Yeah, there's an initial post you have to make. And I guess, let me bring up the instructions real quickly. Essentially, you just have to answer these prompts. So on page 2, you have like 5 prompts. Okay, so discuss your comfort level delivering presentations, discuss a public speaking experience, discuss the time you created a visual presentation, and be sure to answer these questions as well. I'm seeing most people doing this, but just make sure, because sometimes people kind of come to the board, look at what people have posted and figure, oh, okay, I got it. I know what to do, and sort of copy that. But make sure that you're truly answering these prompts on page 2 of the instructions, okay? You should be sharing personal anecdotes, okay, and sharing some specific details about those. So you should have a specific public speaking experience to share, a specific time that you created a visual presentation. Yeah, if you don't have any experience with creating a visual presentation, I guess it's fine if you can't discuss that. But everybody has done one of these two. Most people have done both. Felix says he's never done a visual presentation before. Okay, that's fine. Then focus most of your attention here if you didn't do so already. Actually, I responded to your post, so I think you did. Okay. But just make sure that you're always hitting those marks on the instruction sheet, and you should be fine. You also have to respond to 2 classmates. Okay. Someone asked me a question. I don't know if it's anybody here, but they got a little bit confused about the assignment dates, saying, wait a second, the instructions say something about being sure to post by Wednesday, but the assignment says it's due Sunday. That just means, okay, it was Luis. That just means that you're supposed to have made your initial post, like Maxwell did here, by Wednesday. I mean, listen, if it comes on Thursday or even Friday, I to be honest, I'm too lazy to check when it was posted. I just don't want to see it posted on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Right? You have to give people enough time to see your actual post so they can possibly respond to it. And when it comes to responses, you do have this RISE model feedback thing, E, here. This is helpful if you're unsure how to write quality responses. I don't make too big of a deal about this as long as you're engaging with your classmates. So you're reading what they have to say, you're responding to it specifically, you're attempting to encourage further conversation. That's fine. What we want to avoid is just 2 quick sentences written, like, hey, great job, or I like it when you said this, but you don't really expand on that. It's not that you have to write filler. It's not that I want to see you padding, but it shouldn't take much time to respond. Like, let's see. So here I responded to someone. That's probably a little bit short, but I mean, that's passable depending on the quality of what you've written. Obviously, I'm responding to several students, so that's why sometimes I'm a little bit shorter. Um, because I don't have a 2-student requirement. I usually try to answer 5 or 6 people. Okay, so here's another response. Okay, so I think people know that. So let me get away from that. Let's talk about the other major activity, which is worth 15% of your grade, and it's a TED Talk analysis. So let me get some things ready for that. I guess we'll need this guy here. Okay, first of all, your job is to go to TED.com. Okay, this is where TED Talks are. A lot of people are familiar with TED Talks. If you're not, I think you're going to like them. I watch them for fun. I really do. And sometimes I watch the ones that students select just because they interest me. But you have here, you can see 2,200 talks, and you can search per topic. You should probably try to choose something that's in your area, though you don't have to. But you have to choose 3, okay? And you have to watch them and then look at the assignment sheet. And I'm not going to read all these instructions here. That'd be dull. So make sure that you read this on your own. But yeah, watch a minimum of 3 different TED Talks. And you essentially have to put together a document. Okay, so you have these prompts here. You should be answering these pretty fully and specifically, okay? Because your answers to these questions are going to be what you use to create your document. So, step one is to choose three talks, watch them, and consider these questions. The second step is to form an answer to those questions, okay, in document form. So, create a document for this assignment using visual elements. Now, the questions I get are okay, what do you mean by create a document? What do you mean by visual elements? And here's something you're going to see a lot in this class. This class is purposely flexible, okay? Because if I show you, for example, a student who used PowerPoint, then every student follows that example and creates a PowerPoint document. You don't have to do that. You can use PowerPoint. You can use Microsoft Word. That's fine. Um, you can use Prezi, which is an online presentation tool. You can make a short video. You can do whatever you want, pretty much. Okay, so document is purposely loose. What do I mean by visual elements? I just want you to start playing around with visuals already. Okay, I want you to get some experience on how to find visuals and just practice putting them in your document somewhere. Okay, later we'll talk about placement and design. Right now, that's not my interest. My interest is just that you start playing around with things. So I'm going to mention two places you can go for free images. One is Full Sail Connect. Okay, everybody should know how to get here. I'm going to log in. And if we go to the library and then go to research databases, the third option here, AP images. Okay, AP stands for Associated Press. So these are going to be images that are typically used in news stories. AP images is great when you need something very specific that you probably think might have appeared in the news. For example, searching for specific people tends to produce good results. So I'm going to go ahead and try my favorite person in the world and do a search. Oh, I think I might have something. Hold on. That's not Taylor Swift. I probably have the wrong filter selected. We want photo. No, yeah. See, we don't want historical. We want just photos. Okay, so let's try that again. Boom! Got lots of pictures of Taylor Swift. Okay, that one looks nice. No, I'm not sure why. Well, who knows? You might use this in your presentation. I mean, your presentation, if you're a music person, shouldn't be about, I love this artist and I love that artist. But who knows? Maybe if part of your presentation is, when I first listened to Taylor Swift's CD Red, that's when I fell in love with music. Okay, so maybe there's a professional connection. If you just make sure that you grab the AP number up here and place it somewhere near the photo, that tells me, okay, you got this image for here, right? Um, People are insulting Taylor Swift in the chat. I won't stand for that. If you want to pass this class, you should stop that immediately. Just kidding. I do love Taylor Swift though. Love her, love her, love her. Can't get enough. Where am I going? See, I just lost track of myself again. Okay, but AP images, right? That's one place we can go. Another place is compfight.com. I'm going to go ahead and type that in the chat if I could spell it correctly. This is a Flickr search tool. Compfight is great because when you need more general images, like let's say I'm putting together something education related, and so I need an image of a classroom. I could just do a search for classroom. Oh, Daniel, I like rock and roll too. I mean, actually, my interests are more indie, punk, that kind of thing. But I listen to anything. I try to listen to 3 or 4 new albums per week in all genres. So country, hip hop, whatever. It's just, I don't know. This is too much information. So I'm going to get those evaluations at the end. Instructor talks too much about himself. We don't care about his personal likes and dislikes. But yeah, we're speaking about being comfortable in your own skin. I've long passed the point where I feel the need to apologize if I love something. You know, popular on the radio. Who cares? If it's a great song, it's a great song. Okay, where was I? Anything above the dotted line is shilling for another site, so you should never have to pay for your images. Just make sure that you please choose Creative Commons or commercial. Commercial is a better choice because Full Sail is a for-profit university. But if you choose Creative Commons, that's fine too. What we're trying to do, though, is find images that are allowable. Okay? Why am I getting these weird images for classroom? That doesn't look like a classroom. Let's try that again. Okay, I guess those... That doesn't sound... I was getting better results before. Here, let's start all over again. Creative Commons. Okay, something must have happened where I wandered somewhere else. Okay, so below the dotted line, these are stuff that are allowed to be used. So you'll have to spend some time choosing a careful image. But let's say we like... Oh, this image here looks nice. All right, that looks like a student working. This is what we're looking for. Some rights reserved. Okay? All rights reserved means we can't touch it. In other words, what I don't want to see is people going, oh, I need an image for my presentation. Taylor Swift. Right? So you Google, and then you go to the images, and you just start searching, and you start grabbing things. No, we can't do that because we need to make sure that it's actually allowable. I'm open to other Creative Commons types of resources, but you always have to include the URL so I can make sure that it's allowable. Okay? Does this make sense to everybody? Yeah, some rights reserved. Then we can choose what image size we want. This step sometimes is a little confusing, but it's not really. We don't need all this HTML because we're not designing a web page. Most people know how to spot a URL, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and grab it. Right, there's the URL, and we know it's a URL because we plug it back in. It will take us right to that exact photo. Okay, and again, some rights reserved. That basically means we can use it. We just have to give credit for it, and that URL acts as credit. Adrian asks, how do you perform a citation? The good news for this class, you don't have to do anything beyond either an Associated Press number or a URL for that allowable image. Later in English class, yes, you're going to learn how to cite. And there is a way to cite images. There's an official way to cite sound files, all that stuff. Here, I just want proof, okay? I just need to get back to the image itself. Does that make sense? Okay, so if we go back to the instructions here, wherever they were, I probably closed them, so let me open them up again. That's the wrong one. We're almost done, so I'm going to set you free in just a sec. That's the wrong activity. See, you have to be comfortable in your own skin or else I'd be panicking right now. Okay, where are we? There we go. Okay, so choose three TED Talks, watch them, maybe take notes. Here are the questions to consider. Once use the answers to these questions to create a document, okay? And by the way, this means like paragraphs, like actual prose. So don't just like copy this question, drop it in a document, answer it, move to the next question. No, take your answers and turn them into an actual document. Okay. And for your visual elements, yeah, you can use an image from AP Images. You can use one from compfight.com. You can take screenshots of the TED Talk. TED Talks are completely shareable, so you won't get in trouble in terms of taking a quick screenshot of maybe a certain part of the TED Talk and using that. Okay, just make sure that your document has some visuals. Now, you can do whatever else you want. If you already want to start playing around with presentation software and using different functions, that's fine. Even Microsoft Word has templates within it. Brochure type templates, pamphlet type templates, which can be adapted really well for this assignment because they'll already be in an attractive format, often which has photo areas where you can just drag in a photo. Okay, so yeah, you have maximum flexibility here. I get all sorts of documents. I get Microsoft Word, I get PowerPoint, I get Prezi, I get all sorts of stuff. And visuals just means, yeah, you're exploring how to find visuals or take a screenshot from the TED Talk and incorporate it into your document. There's the third step. Once you've done, by the way, you're doing this for each of the 3 TED Talks, okay? And this should be a single document. So if it's a PowerPoint, I don't know, there might be 7 to 10 slides because maybe it takes you a slide or two to present your analysis. with visuals. But once your 3 analyses are done, you need to conclude with a sort of top 10 list. Okay, now that you've watched all 3 TED Talks, what are your takeaways? What would you say are the 10 qualities, techniques, or skills that make presentations inspiring, captivating, creative, or effective? In other words, what are your 10 takeaways that make for good presentations now that you've watched 3 of them? Okay, that's it. Questions, because I try to keep these at an hour more or less, because at the hour mark I tend to lose people. So now's the time to ask any questions that you might have about this assignment, about the discussion assignment, about anything that we've covered in this session. If you are happy with what we've gone over and feel like you understand everything completely, you are allowed to go free. As Sting once famously saying, if you love them, set them free. You're allowed to go enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to hang around, though, and answer questions that people might have. Let's see. Ooh, chat's moving so fast I can't keep up. Jade says, when are the responses due? I think you mean the 2 responses to classmates. Those are due by Sunday. So hopefully you'll make your original post long before then. Okay. About your thoughts about public speaking, sharing an anecdote about a time you had a public speaking experience, sharing an experience where you've created a visual presentation. There are a couple other prompts. And then, you need to respond by 2 of your classmates by Sunday. Did I miss anything else? Agent says, for one of my TED Talks, I have an animator talk that includes Pixar. Okay, you're just informing us. Yeah, there's a really awesome one by Danielle Feinberg. I don't know if you know her. She's a major animator for Pixar. I just watched her talk recently. She has a good one. TED Talks are nice, too, because they have a limit, I think, of around 18 minutes. Like, presenters have to keep things relatively short, so they're not 1-hour sessions. You can see here 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 18 minutes. Sometimes they'll go a little bit over 19 minutes or so, but they're purposely meant to be kept short. Maxwell says, everything just due on Sunday by default? Yeah, mostly. That's how it will operate in most classes. Occasionally you'll have some courses where things might be due during the middle of the week, but a lot of classes, Sunday is the default due date. It's easier to remember. The only thing I'd caution is that sometimes students wait until Sunday to do everything, and that's usually not a good technique, although I'm guilty of doing it because I can procrastinate. Adrian says, so is there copyright infringement if I cut and paste from the TED Talks with a Pixar character in it? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, okay? Just be aware that maybe that kind of situation is more complicated. Like if you were to send something out professional into the world, you might have issues with it. I would have to look into that. That's a good question. Okay, but for this assignment, I'm not going to make a big deal. Yes, Daniel, Pixar and Disney do have itchy trigger fingers. And here, Orlando, we're right next door to Disney World, so we can. Like it's even been brought up, like, what about a personal photo? You were at Disney World with your family and you snapped a personal photo and you want to add it to your presentation. I think we're even told to be careful about that. When I have taught in the classroom here, sometimes I'll put on music through the PA system. And I've been told that we even shouldn't be doing that. But I say, who cares? The students don't mind. Agent says citations are at the back of the document. I'd stop referring to these as citations. They're more like photo credits. And because of that, I think it's more logical to just put them next to the image. Do I have CompFight still open? No. I don't know why I'm getting these weird results for Classroom. These aren't Classroom images. But it's as simple as, okay, I'm going to go and grab that URL. Download my image. See, it's already downloading. There it is. That means I can go to my tool of choice. New slide. Right. I mean, this is going to look sloppy. I hate it when it does that. Right. She got beheaded. uh, yeah, I don't know why I did that. I probably have to start with a blank document. This has already set up these slides a certain way, so it's not bringing the whole image. But then, yeah, you come in and there's your photo credit. And when it comes to presentation time, I'm going to not teach tricks, but encourage people. Yeah, there's a way to make the photo credit very small and to have it blend into the background. Not so it's completely invisible, but so it's mostly invisible. It's there for people who really want to get out the magnifying glass and take a close look. But yeah, it shouldn't be distracting. For this assignment, though, it's not a problem. Just make sure there's a photo credit. Okay. I'm scrolling through the remarks. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because I think questions have kind of slowed down. So for people watching, thanks so much for watching. See you next week. Adios.